All right, up next we have Shannon Kinney, who will be with us every week during this academy. Shannon is here to lead a workshop focusing on creating a marketing plan for your business. First, a little bit about Shannon. Shannon Kinney is a seasoned startup founder and executive with over 25 years of experience. She is considered a thought leader in the online space and is a highly sought after keynote speaker, advisor, and consultant. Shannon founded Dream Local Digital in 2009 to bring the power of online marketing to small and medium-sized businesses and to master the craft of how to make small, mean businesses successful on social media. Please help me welcome Shannon Kinney.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. That was a great session. I was so energized. I hope all of you were too. And there was a couple key steps that she took, including a SWOT analysis, as well as setting SMART goals that you all are going to get to do over the next 9 weeks. So if you're feeling like, wow, she had it all together and I just don't have that, or I'm not sure how to start, don't despair. You're in the right place. So I'm really excited to be here in week 1 of creating your marketing plan. I've put together a really interactive session for you that's going to consist of a presentation, and then we're going to also have reviews of and a little bit of homework, just a tiny bit of homework for each of you each week. This week I have for you a presentation, some trends, and an outline of what a marketing plan is. But our mission with this course is to guide you through this process and sort of give you some support. So each week, I'll make sure that you get a copy of today's presentation, as well as a homework assignment. So don't worry about taking notes or anything. You'll get all of the materials that is shared with you each week, and you're going to get out of it what you put in. So I'm going to give you, for example, an entire outline of a marketing plan. So you may find that some sections just don't really appeal to you or aren't really something that you want to work on, and that's totally fine. Like, the goal of our initiative for the next 9 weeks is to make this work for you and make you feel like you've got tools to help yourself be successful. And if you have questions, let me know. You can hit me up in the chat while we're having our live sessions. I'll also make sure that you have a copy of my email address, which I did throw into the chat, but you'll also see at the end of today's session, so that we can make sure that you get any answers that you need to be successful. And there's a lot of material that I'm put together for you. Like, today in particular might feel a little bit overwhelming in that there's a bunch here for you. A lot of it is created to be a reference. So today, just be thinking about your marketing plan, and then when you get the deck, you'll have an actual print. You can print a little copy of the outline or create a document that works for you. Don't stress, but it is going to be a little bit tricky from the fire hose, but we're going to make sure that you're all set. So what we're going to cover today is we have industry trends, just a few, just to kind of, I'm mostly interested in giving you some of the latest data on the internet and how it's impacting, because so many of you, like we just heard, have to switch to online tactics or very different tactics than you did before. So I'm going to cover a few of those. We're going to talk about the importance of a plan, but not just having one, but how are you actually going to use it? Like, what is this going to be used for in practical terms? We're also going to do an exercise called bringing all your assets together, which I've done with hundreds of businesses, and many of them find that to be a really shocking experience. So we'll talk about that. Then the major part of what we're going to talk about today is the outline of your marketing plan and how to make it your own. Like, what are the sections that you should have, and what are they specifically? Like, let's talk about each one and where you might find that info or what's right for you to be in there. And finally, I'm going to give you a few questions that you can ask yourself for inspiration for your homework, and then what you can expect next week, which is about your brand promise delivery. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. So I'm going to jump into the industry trends, really just to sort of set the context of what you're going to be thinking about. And really, I think the best way for me to start is to say that the way people are consuming information, consuming news, entertainment, interacting with people is totally different. So I used to live in Bar Harbor, And I used to run the newspaper there, and I was really proud, and I sold ads at the newspaper. I was the ad director, and life was much simpler back then. When people got the newspaper in the morning, they listened to the radio in the car, and they watched TV at 6 o'clock, and that's how they knew what was going on in the world. And today, things are thrown at you all day, every day. And in this case, you can see here, this is an image of the American Airlines lounge. And you can see that literally every person in my photo is staring at a screen. So people are connected all day long. They're not concerned about being social with the people around them, and they're getting information pounded at them all day. Now, the other thing that this means for you is that your customer that you're trying to reach is easily distracted, super easily distracted. The average attention span of a human being has gone down 4 seconds in the last 5 years. And let's just discuss that for a second. So when I first started Dream Local Digital, which was just about 11 and a half years ago, the average attention span of a human was only 4 seconds longer than a goldfish. And so I would always joke that, hey, if you wonder why your teenagers are like not making eye contact, it's because they are only just above a goldfish in caring about what you have to say at any given moment. Well, now the goldfish beats us. So get one, and when you go to feed him, he's going to make way more eye contact with you than any of these people in the American Airlines lounge. And that just means you really have to be thinking about, like, how can I compete differently? And this is even outside of COVID, which we are going to address. Like, how does COVID impact your marketing plan? It's actually woven into pretty much everything we're going to talk about. But I first want to just start with the fact that your audience has a very different attention span, and that makes them behave differently. And so no matter how long you've had your business, we want to be thinking about how to best showcase you in this environment. And marketing is much more complicated than it used to be. You used to be able to buy your print ad, your Yellow Pages ad, a couple directories or whatever, and you were done. And now there is so many different options for small business owners, and more content and media created every 60 seconds that can be consumed in an entire lifetime. Easily distracted people. But here's what consumers do expect. Because they've got so much thrown at them all the time, they expect businesses to know them. Like, nobody wants to call Spectrum or their cable company or whomever and explain who they are over and over and over again. Nobody has time for that. They want to be heard, responded to. They want a relationship with that business. And I don't think it'll surprise you that they expect businesses to answer them on social. Millennials expect, 95% of them expect support on social media. It's not just kids. 70% of people ages 45 to 60 expect support on at least 3 social networks. And the vast majority of people do their word of mouth or ask for advice on social media. It influences their purchase decisions. So what are small businesses doing as a result? Well, they're going to spend about $808 billion online in online marketing tools like social media management and social media advertising, as well as search and email. And social media is rising to the top to be the most expensive, or the area where people are investing the most budget, because they're really able to impact it, tailor it, and target very specifically to just who they want and see that working. But the area that they're asking for a lot of help is, can you help me manage my channels, because I've done it and it's not really working, or I don't think enough people are seeing it, or I just don't know what to do. So when I looked at really what are the top 6 marketing channels that businesses are using, and then where are they going to spend more money, social rises to the top of both of those studies. Websites are number 2. You just saw a complete overhaul of a website and how that completely changed her business. Email marketing is a very powerful tool if you do it well. And so we're going to incorporate that into our plans for some of you, but not all of you. Search engine optimization, or SEO, is quickly rising to the top because people want to show up on search. It's the new location for their business. And content marketing is an important part of the mix. We're going to cover all of that over the next several weeks. Now, okay, so your consumer is very easily distracted, and you're one too. You're bombarded with stuff all day long. So maybe you are. Well, if you're wondering why it is so much more complex as a business owner now for you than it was before, what I can tell you is before 2008, the average small and medium-sized business, or SMB, saw 8 sales reps a month trying to sell them advertising. So it might have been the weekly newspaper, maybe the daily newspaper, a radio station, Yellow Pages guy, maybe TV, or a chamber booklet. It was pretty simple. You knew these people, you knew their names, they had your logos on file, and if you decided to do anything, you could just say, I'm having a sale this weekend. Life was simple. Today, marketing is much more complex. There's so many options for small business owners, which is exciting, but it's also really overwhelming. And the average small business owner is solicited by more than 39 people a month. Somebody's promising to make you show up on Yelp and you don't even know if you care or if you need to. And maybe they say, I can make you rank higher in Google, or I'm an intern and I can do a marketing plan. Like all these people contacting you all the time. And that is overwhelming for business owners. And so if all of the online stuff makes you feel overwhelmed, it's not because you're unhip, and it's not because you don't understand technology. It's because it is exponentially more complex in the past even 7 years than it was before. So why are we all here? Why are we thinking about the marketing plan? It's really important for you to have some common playbook for you and your team to go with that really prioritizes your goals. And you saw that in the previous session, how she shared, they set some goals, they put together a plan. Then when COVID happened, they pivoted a bit, but they still had their plan. They still knew what they were trying to accomplish, and they just let go of some of those things that weren't working any longer. So this really helps you understand how to set your priorities, and as the climate changes, reset your priorities if needed. It helps you identify where to spend your time, like what channels or types of marketing are going to really appeal to your customers, and what ones are more of a distraction and maybe not something that you need to undertake. And it helps you think about your customer and how to motivate them through the buyer's journey, which is really an important part of all of our jobs now. I mean, if you think about that picture of the people in the American Airlines lounge, like just looking at screens all day, it takes a little bit more work and savvy to motivate those people now. And it helps you coordinate. So often I'll see someone's Facebook page not at all match what they're doing in the newspaper or in their in-store signage or in some offer I get in direct mail. And for marketing to work and for it to work well and efficiently, it really all needs to work together. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Now I wanted to show just a quick example of how are you going to use a plan. Like I remember being in statistics class in college, and the professor was going on and on about some of these formulas. And I remember looking at the girl next to me and being like, how am I ever going to use that in real life, right? And so I wanted to address really early on for all of you, how will you use this plan in real life? And here's an example of social media. If you're trying to figure out what you're going to do and measure in social media, here's a quick little chart where I'm showing you how we're going to map what's your business goal or your business objective, then how does that translate to social media, and then how do you measure it to know if what you're doing is working. So if you tell me we've just launched a new section of my business, we've just added cold brew, I need everyone to know about it, I need to really build brand awareness that this is available, and it's available at all of these locations, then we're going to set a social media goal that is around awareness and look for followers, shares, likes, people actually sending things to their own pages. So you'll think about mapping, what are your real life business goals? And then how can we map them to different things like your website, like your print marketing or TV or radio marketing, like social media, and then measure it to know it's all working, because that's really the key to success. What you measure moves. Okay, So this is the first step, which I don't mind telling you is going to be part of your homework. And this is really bringing all aspects of your marketing together. And maybe it's on a table in your office, maybe it's on the floor in your bedroom. I don't know where it is, but I want you to really look at everything you've got. So signs, brochures, business cards, any ads that you have running on the placemat at the restaurant or in a guide somewhere, yellow pages, chamber booklet, any advertising and signage. And if you have like a sign on your business, take a little picture of it. That goes in your pile. Then think about events, sales, contests, or promotions that you have. Do you have like a sale in the winter? Do you have a sale in the summer? Like, are you doing any special events, even virtual ones? Like, what are you doing to effectively interact with the offline community or online community? Then look at your sales and customer service. This part is really overlooked. Is there anybody in your sales team? Are they using their own presentations of your business? Do they have scripts or emails that they use or send out? Your customer service team, do they have templates in how they talk about your customers or talk about your business? That goes in your pile. If you have job listings and you talk about your company to potential employees, anything you have there, that goes in the pile. And then the last one is your online presence. So this is your website, your Google My Business page. And if you don't have one, we need one. So that's going to be on our list for the next few weeks. Any social media channels that you have. And by the way, if you're not updating them or they didn't work for you, then maybe you shouldn't have them anymore. Like, you should be focused where you feel like you can be successful, and I'll make sure that you feel like you have the tools to do that. Emails that you send, any review sites like maybe Yelp or TripAdvisor or something. E-commerce sites, do you list your products on Etsy or somewhere else besides your own website? Chambers of commerce, do you have your business listed there or any business associations? Appointment confirmations and text messaging. Do you send anything to people to confirm appointments, anything like that? Put it all together. I did this with one university here in Maine, and it literally, we printed stuff out and it covered all of the walls of his office all around him. And that seems like a big waste of time. Like, why did we do that? Well, one thing we quickly saw when everything was all in front of us was that there were multiple versions of their logo being used, several different color palettes. Some of the other departments were actually just making up their own value proposition for that college. It was really like just a little bit of chaos. And not because people were not well-meaning, it's just they didn't know how to sort of follow the plan because there was no plan. So the first thing I would suggest that you do is pull all this stuff together. And even if it's just a few things, then your homework will be easy. The key thing you want here is they should all have a unified voice. And if you're saying on social media, for example, that, hey, fall is here, time to think about cleaning your gutters, then you want to make sure that your website reflects that. Maybe has tips for cleaning gutters, and maybe you talk about what this means to the health of your roof in the winter. Like, relate everything together, because your customer is very easily distracted. And if they happen to spend 2 seconds looking at something that you do, it needs to all make sense to them in their head with everything else that they're seeing. So the human brain, just a pro tip, can process a photograph or an image, a photograph or a video, 60,000 times faster than text. Your brain is like a real-time categorizer. Like, it wants to see something and put it in a category. Oh, I see this girl. I recognize her face. Do I know her from work or home or college? It's this town. It's, oh, that's this person. Like, your brain, that's how it remembers so many things. And so when you're spending time marketing to very distracted people, you need to make sure that you don't make them work to remember that the green version of your logo is the same as the blue version of your logo, and we can't change it because why bother? And your website, your old website, like, it needs to all look together. if you want it to work well. So step one is bringing all your aspects of your marketing together. And frankly, when you're creating your plan, it kind of is good to sort of have them all close by and just know what you've got going on so that you can make sure that your plan accommodates for that. So that can be an exercise for all of you this week. All right. The second part of your exercise for this week is really creating the outline of your marketing plan. Since we're all going to work together to create a plan over the next 9 weeks, you need to know what's the framework of that plan. So I didn't create, I debated back and forth. I did not create a document for you because some of you might like to use Google Documents. Some of you might like to use Word or some of you might like doing it in slides. Some of you might want to do it in a spreadsheet. Like whatever works for you in terms of the vessel that you host your marketing plan in, you choose your own format. What we're going to cover is what is the content that should be in it? Like what is the outline of a successful marketing plan? Then over the next, tonight we're going to explain each section. And then over the next several weeks, we're going to tackle a section or two at a time and talk about what should be in that section, and then open it up for questions about what questions you might have about that specific section and anything you want to cover. Oh, it's 60,000 times faster, and that just asked. So the human brain can process an image or a video 60,000 times faster than text. So this is the reason why you'll get advice from me about things like don't ever do a post on social media without an image, because otherwise somebody's just going to scroll right by it. And in fact, if it's too long, assume you're going to get the scroll. If you're writing emails, email newsletters, couple comments, break it up with an image, couple comments, break it up with an image. Like help people. It's not just because we're lazy and we don't like text. It's really because our brains are so overwhelmed with information right now that it's desperately seeking to categorize information, and it can do that better with a visual than text. Text, it has to think about it, comprehend it, and visuals are just really quickly. So Annette, it's 60,000 times faster. Thanks for asking. All right, so let's dive into this outline. I'm not going to make you wait and go section by section because I know it's late at night. I'm going to just do the summary, and then we'll talk about each of them. So this is your cheat sheet for the sections that you should put into your marketing plan. And, you know, as I said, not all of them are going to matter to all of you. But each one of them can, if you have one, should move towards or support your overall marketing plan. So for example, maybe not all of you have mission statements. Perhaps, you know, you're a consumer-facing company or you just don't feel a need for that. You know what your company's why is and it's how you sell your product, but you don't have a mission statement, then just skip that section. That's okay. I think the main point is if you do have one, it should be here and it ought to all support each other. So we're going to have an executive summary in case somebody doesn't read the whole document, your mission statement, trackable SMART goals. This is what you heard about in the last session. SMART goals matter. So we're actually going to look at how to set SMART goals together, and that's going to be a lot of fun for your businesses. A situational analysis, like what's my company look like right now? Like, for example, my company was tracking towards this many million in revenue, then COVID-19 hit and we experienced a downturn that did this to my revenue, and now we're pivoting and doing this. Like a situational analysis is just a nice little summary of where you're at. SWOT analysis, which you heard about in our last section, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for you in the market. And if you happen to be in a highly competitive location or industry, the comparison to competitors is really nice, and that's a nice layer here. We're going to dive into target market and your target and ideal customer, and they are different. We'll discuss that. And buyer personas. Some of you will love this part. Some of you, it'll be too much. So we'll offer the option to learn about both, and you can decide what's right for you. So next week, we're going to work on our brand promise and unique selling proposition. Like this is really some people call it like your tagline, your elevator speech. It's more than just a short way of describing what you do. A brand promise is really about I favor these over mission statements, frankly, because it's just a way of saying to your customer and to your team, this is what we promise to do for our customers. And you're really going to like the exercise that we've got scheduled for next week. Then this is where the rubber meets the road, the promotion and distribution strategy. Holy moly, where am I putting all my marketing? Is it going, what's on my website? What's on social media? What's on Google? What's in my print ads? What's on TV? What's in my chamber booklets? Am I doing yellow pages? What's there? We're going to go through how to map all that out and how to create an easy to manage schedule for yourself. And then finally, one of the most important sessions will be how we're going to measure results, because you're all busy, you have other things to do. And if it's not going to work, you don't have time for that. How are you going to measure results? Who does what within your team? And if you're a small team, don't worry, I got your back. And then finally, how to set priorities. Out of everything you've talked about, all the goals you have for the business, what's realistic for you, and how to set priorities within that plan. So let's dive in for just a second and recognize that, as I said, you need to make this your own. One of the reasons, like, I really spent a long time creating 5 different versions of templates so that I could email you this like document that you could just put your stuff in. And what I recognized is if I put a section in, somebody's going to think they have to do it. And it might not be, they might not naturally like Word, for example, or Google Docs. And so really, this has to be your own. It has to be something that you want to refer to. It's a living document. In fact, like, we update ours quarterly. Some companies that we manage their marketing, we do it every month for them. And so it really needs to be in a vessel and in a format and in a part of your day-to-day workflow that makes sense to you. So go into detail where it matters the most to you, pull back where it doesn't. All right, so now I'm going to walk through each of the sections really quickly just to make sure that they make sense to you. And then we'll start looking at questions about your plans and other things that you might want to talk about in terms of how to make it your own, so that you feel like you've got it. But I want to really go into each section so you feel comfortable. After tonight, you should really be thinking about what are some notes that I might have for these sections for myself. Start scribbling them down, because this is the exciting time. So first, this is the executive summary. If you're sharing your marketing or your business plan with your bank, which, by the way, I do with mine, if you share it with your bank, they'll read this. Investors, board might read it. Or I find this is an incredibly great tool to share with your team, so that everybody on your team understands what you're trying to accomplish and what your goals are and how you're going to get there. So what are we trying to accomplish? Where are we now? And what are we going to do to get where we need to go? Mission statement. As I said, this may or may not be something that's critical to you. If you have one, it's probably a good time to look at it again. And one of the things that I'll mention, we'll talk about throughout the next few weeks, is COVID really did change a lot of people's habits. And we heard about it in the session before, where because your buyers or your consumers have changed their habits, does that change your mission to them? Does it change your brand promise to them? Does it change how they buy your products? Does it change how you deliver? So really thinking about what your goals are, refreshing all of this is important, even if you already had a plan pre-say March. But when it comes to your mission statement, this is really your company's why. Throughout the segments, I'll also be sharing a couple books that are really motivational. This week, the book that I'll mention is Simon Sinek's book about understanding your why. Start with why. Fascinating read. If you like audio books over reading, if you don't have time to read and you want to read while you're walking or running or whatever, the audio book is terrific. He reads it, but Start with Why is a terrific book. In this short version is your mission statement's really sort of a combination of your mission, your vision for the company, and the values you have at the company. It's a nice way to talk about your values. So why are you in business and what problem do you help solve? Trackable, SMART goals. We're going to spend a bunch of time here because a lot of times people will say things like, I want to double the company. Excuse me. Doubling your company is actually trackable because you can look at the size you are now and double it. But it's kind of a so vague that it's really hard to know if you're taking the right steps to get towards that big thing. And so what we're going to talk about is not only how to set goals that are trackable, but goals that are also ones that your team can get behind, that you can measure your performance against, that you can set marketing standards to reach, and allow it to be more of a bite-sized roadmap than some big lofty thing that you hang on the wall and aren't really sure what steps you're going to take to get there. Then we'll also talk about key performance indicators, or KPIs, that allow you to measure each little thing you're doing and see if it's helping you towards the greater whole. Are my emails being opened? Is my social media posting, is it actually working? Is this endeavor or that endeavor worth doing any longer? Did using that sale get me more customers that stayed with me a long time, or did they just show up to take care of that excess inventory or that sale, and is that okay with me? So that's what our trackable goals section is going to be about. Your situational analysis, this is going to be different for all of you, obviously, but it's a great summary of, as of the writing of this plan, here's where I am, right? Here's where my business stands. What is your general situation like? This should include, staffing, profitability, not profitability, growth, not growth, scale, not scale, planning stages, early stages, like help showcase where are you at right now? What does your market share look like, or the competitive environment? What's your outlook look like for the next 5 years? Are you investing in growth? Are you looking to exit? Are you, paying dividends with your profits? Like, what does that look like? And where is your revenue coming from? These are I call this really the benchmark. It's how are we level setting? This is on a map, it's you are here and where you're starting from. The SWOT analysis, which we heard about in the session before, this is where we're going to look at where your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I can tell you is none of us, I'm confident, none of us in today's class are grateful or happy about the pandemic and what it's done to our economies locally, nationally, and globally. However, I'm confident that for some of you, we could find some opportunities here under the darkness. And, we have some businesses that have grown significantly in this time. And we just heard this wonderful case study of, it might have been incredibly hard for her to let go of the retail environment. Like, how would you do that? And she found opportunity in it. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. To the extent that you feel comfortable starting to think about things in that framework, as well as your competition, it's super helpful. My competitor is great here and I'm weak here, or vice versa. And how does that impact what I do? We're going to spend a lot of time with target customers. Some of you may wonder why we spend time in this area, and I'll show you ways to actually make your marketing less expensive and drive a higher return on investment the smarter you are right here. This is where the rubber meets the road, and if you actually ignore 2/3 of my marketing plan segments and only are going to pick one, maybe two, this is one. So make sure that even though I know not all of you are attending every class, don't miss the target customer one, because we're going to dive in to target ideal customers, how you treat them differently, and how geography plays a role for some of you. And I'll also offer some information on buyer personas. For some of you, this may be a great exercise. For others, it may not. I find them to be really helpful when I'm trying to get my whole team to rally around the mind of the customer. So we'll cover that in the customer segment, and then you can decide if it's something that you want to do or not, and I'll show you several examples. Then this is a big one. This is where we take all the different stuff you're going to do. Some are going to be organic or free, like you posting on Facebook, for example. Some might be paid, like advertising. Some might be offline or in the real world, and some might be online or in the web. We're going to actually break down all of your stuff so that you can put it in one place and see what your schedule is and what's happening. This is a really important thing to do to make sure that everywhere you're spending money is moving you towards your goals, that you measure your results, and also that you can control your budget. I find a lot of times business owners, they'll get solicited by maybe a newspaper or Yellow Pages, and they'll say, here's the ad you did last year, and you think, oh, I did it last year, okay, yes. And then you try a few new things and you don't even realize that you're off budget. And so this is gonna help us keep everything working together and also on budget. Okay, so those are your segments of the marketing plan. This is the different pieces that we're going to be working on. You're going to get a copy of today's deck tomorrow morning. I'll make sure that you all have it. Next week, we're going to be thinking about getting that marketing plan. We're going to check in with each other, and I'm going to ask some of you to share, if you don't mind, how your marketing plan framework is coming together. You got that outline. Are you starting to, what kind of format are you putting it in? Are you starting to have ideas in the different segments? Like, how are you doing? So we're gonna have some interactive check-in. Then we're gonna talk about how to create your brand promise. And I wanted you to have this graphic so you could get an idea of what that means. It's really like, what makes me different? Like, why am I unique? What's my unique offering? And how am I, what promise am I making? Or how am I saying that to my customer? Performance is how I deliver on that promise, and then positioning is how I communicate about it. So really, I think the most important thing for you guys to think about for next week is, what is your unique offering? Like, what is it that makes you different? And sometimes maybe you're in a really crowded space and there's lots of people who do what you do. But if I asked you, like, why you started your business or what gets you excited about your customers, I know it will start to come out. So really think this through, and we're going to spend some fun time with that next week. A few questions to ask yourself for inspiration, like, I took this class, it's nighttime, I need wine right now, what's happening? It happens to all of us. So for inspiration, a few questions you can ask yourself are to stimulate what might be your brand promise, and some of the things you want to put into this is like, you know, what sets my business apart? Like, what's most important to my customer when they are buying what I'm selling? Like, are they coming to me for convenience? Are they coming to me for expertise? Are they coming to me because of the relationship that they have with me? Like, what is most important to them? What are the top 3 things I should be doing to get there? Like, do I need to expand my markets? Do I need to rebuild my website? Do I need to add e-commerce? Do I need to find more money in my budget? Do I need to think about social media? Like, what do you think those 3 things are? And another one that I really like is, what will trigger your customer to think of you? Because that dictates a lot of marketing. And finally, like, what does success look like to me? Because everybody's a little bit different. For some of you, maybe you need 10 new customers. For some of you, maybe you need 10% more revenue. For some of you, maybe you need a new employee, and so we have to generate enough revenue to pay for that employee. What does success look like? Because at the end of our endeavor over the next several weeks, we want you to have the framework of a plan that's going to get you there. All right, so before we open it up for questions tonight, to just anything that you have going on, or to let you out a little bit early so that you can work on your homework, here's the things I want you to be thinking about between now and next Tuesday, when we're lucky enough to meet with each other again. The first is inventory your assets, not just to see if they all match, but also don't forget something's running out there, so you can make sure it's accounted for in your plan. I'll give you a quick example of how this could impact you. I had one hair salon call me. I want to say, I think 25 different webinars with different groups in 11 states over crisis marketing in March, April, and early May. Like, people were just freaking out, what do I do? And so I offered these series, and this one hair salon was like, I was on your session 2 weeks ago, and I've been doing the things, I'm starting to post, I'm communicating, but I just had like 4 people cancel. and I don't understand why. And so I talked to her about her process, and she contacted individually her customers to tell them how safe she was going to be in her salon, that she was open again, and to ask them, do you feel comfortable with coming in? So she didn't just assume it, because this was back in the early days and people were pretty nervous about leaving their houses. These people confirmed, yes, I want to come. I'm comfortable. I will wear my mask. You're going to wear your mask. Life is good. Then they canceled. I think it was like 60% of those people canceled afterwards, and she couldn't figure out why. I scheduled a mock appointment and realized she was doing text message, email confirmations, emails and text confirmations that were on like set it and forget it, like she forgot that they were there. They actually did not talk about social distancing. They didn't mention masks. They didn't mention any of that stuff. And so people panicked and canceled their appointments. So make sure that you don't have some aspect of your marketing that you aren't taking into account, like an automated appointment scheduler, for example, or an invoice being set out with a message on it, a sign on your truck. Like those are all assets that you should have. Inventory those assets, know what they are, at least have them on a even piece of notebook paper for yourself. Create your own marketing plan framework, because we're going to work on it each week over the 9 weeks, and in whatever vessel you want it, whatever software you want it, make sure you get it together and take the outlines that you got from tonight, create sections for them in your thing, and be ready to start adding into it. And start your brain thinking about what you think your brand promise is. And bonus points to any of you who have time to ask somebody who works for you what they think it is, and one of your customers what they think it is. I'll guarantee you everybody will say it differently. That's not bad, but the point is, are they all in alignment or not? And that will give you a big clue about what we should be thinking about next week. So those are your 3 aspects of homework. Don't worry, the other weeks it'll be a little shorter. This week we're just kickstarting it. Okay, so we're about 15 minutes early before closing. I'm making up for the fact I'm giving you a bunch of homework. So I just wanted to open it up. Do any of you have questions about your own planning, what you should be thinking about, any of the outline that you heard about today, or anything you want me thinking about for you? You can hit me up in the chat box.